I thought our new hire was just a bit eccentric, but then she tried to have the office goldfish, Bubbles, formally evicted for creating a hostile work environment through excessive and provocative swimming. The saga of Emma Petrova began not with a bang, but with meticulously worded, CC to everyone, including this email about the thermostat. It was her first Monday at Ethel and Partners, a moderately successful architectural firm nestled in a converted brick warehouse in the city's trendy North Loop. The space was open plan, all exposed ductwork and reclaimed wood, a testament to collaborative design. We were a team of about 30, a mix of seasoned architects, eager junior designers like myself, Mark, 32 at the time, and the indispensable support staff who kept the chaotic symphony of creativity from descending into outright anarchy. The office culture was built on a foundation of mutual respect and a shared passion for innovative design, tempered by the understanding that we were all human beings who sometimes needed to listen to music to focus or eat a slightly odorous tuna sandwich at their desk. Emma, 26, was hired as a junior sustainability consultant, a role we were all excited about. We prided ourselves on green design, and her CV was impeccable. A degree from a prestigious university, internships with cutting-edge firms in Amsterdam and Copenhagen. On paper, she was perfect. In person, from the moment she strode in on that first day, she was a human-shaped tornado of procedural nitpicking and moral grandstanding, armed with vocabulary that seemed sourced entirely from corporate HR manuals and critical theory blogs. Her path of destruction began immediately, not with a sledgehammer, but with 1,000 tiny, precise cuts. Her introductory email, sent before she'd even received her laptop login or found the restroom, contained a 5-point manifesto on optimal office air quality and its correlation to cognitive output. Point 3 stipulated that the ambient temperature be maintained at a precise 20.5 degrees Celsius to prevent metabolic lethargy in warmer conditions and promote vasoconstriction-induced alertness in cooler ones. She had, she noted, already taken the liberty of placing a calibrated, NIST-traceable digital thermometer on the corner of her pristine desk to monitor compliance and gather data for her first week report. Our office manager, the wonderful Maria, had kindly set the thermostat to 22 degrees Celsius, a comfortable median for the usually chilly interior of the old warehouse. This was, in Emma's opening salvo, deemed an unacceptable deviation from best practices. We laughed it off, a nervous, collective chuckle that echoed across the desks. First day jitters, said Ben, our avuncular head of HR, a man whose default setting was a patient smile and a belief in giving everyone the benefit of the doubt. She's just keen, shows initiative. We wanted to disrupt her, didn't we? Sarah, our department head, nodded cautiously, though a faint line of concern had appeared on her forehead. This perceived keenness curdled into something far more sinister and systematic by day 2. Her first official, formally filed complaint to HR was about the kitchenette, specifically the unregulated biological hazard of the shared milk jug. She argued that the practice of multiple people pouring from the same container was a petri dish for cross-contamination and a glaring oversight in post-pandemic protocols. She didn't just suggest an alternative. She demanded individual, company-funded weekly subscriptions to a local, artisanal dairy for lactose-free, oat and almond milk for every employee, citing potential allergen exposure and forced dietary participation. She included a link to a study about the microbiome and a 3-page risk assessment she drafted herself. HR, bemused and wanting to avoid a fuss, bought a few extra cartons of oat milk and some paper towels for wiping the jug. It was a peaceful concession that Emma Petrova took as a declaration of war. She had tested the boundaries and found them malleable. This was a fatal error on our part. The following week, she set her sights on Maria herself. Maria was the heart of the place, a woman in her late 50s with a seemingly endless supply of kindness and efficiency. She remembered everyone's birthday, knew who took their coffee with 2 sugars and a splash of vanilla creamer, and always had a secret stash of high-quality chocolate for emergencies. She also wore a distinct, beautiful cloud of Chanel No. 5, a scent we all associated with comfort, competence, and a feeling that someone capable was at the helm. Emma filed a formal grievance titled Forced Olfactory Assault in a Confined Workspace and its impact on equity. She claimed the perfume triggered debilitating migraines and was, more insidiously, a patriarchal tool of sensory oppression designed to subconsciously reinforce traditional gender roles and assert dominance through scent marking. She demanded an immediate, comprehensive fragrance-free policy for the entire office, mandatory sensitivity training for all staff, and that Maria be counseled on appropriate professional presentation. Maria, a woman with the patience of a saint, was visibly hurt and embarrassed. She stopped wearing the perfume she'd worn for decades. The office didn't just smell different. It felt a little grayer, a little less like our place, and more like a sterile, sanitized zone that Emma was claiming inch by inch. Then came the Great Headphone Purge, as we came to call it. Many of us, especially the designers, coder, and writers, relied on noise-canceling headphones to create a cone of silence in the open-plan environment. It was how we achieved flow state. Emma's next complaint, a multi-part email thread with the subject fostering inclusion or encouraging antisocial alienation, argued that headphones were a physical barrier to collaboration, a symbol of antisocial corporate alienation, and created a culture of silent complicity and othering. She suggested instead a mandatory auditory awareness rotation, where we would all spend 2 hours a day without them to foster spontaneous collaboration and ensure no employee was acoustically excluded from the workplace discourse. We were aghast. Our productivity, our sanity, was built on our ability to voluntarily block out distraction. Tom, a brilliant but intensely shy software architect who communicated mostly through Slack messages and exemplary code, literally had a panic attack at the idea. HR, to its credit, shut this down firmly, stating that headphones were a recognized and essential personal productivity tool. Emma's response was not acceptance, but escalation. She acquired a small, sleek white noise machine and placed it on her desk, playing a sound like a constant, rushing waterfall, a democratically accessible and neutral soundscape, she called it. It was just loud enough to be deeply annoying to the 8 people sitting nearest to her, who now couldn't focus because of her solution to the problem of them focusing. Our department head, Sarah, had to formally ask her to turn it off, which she did with theatrical sigh, muttering about the tyranny of the majority. The complaints became a daily newsletter of absurdity, a drip feed of anxiety that kept us all on edge. She reported the finance team for running a non-sanctioned, potentially exploitive sports betting ring because they had a weekly football pool with a $5 buy-in and a plastic trophy. She flagged the multicolored post-it notes on our brainstorming wall as a fire code violation and a visual pollutant that caused sensory overload. She took issue with David, a devout Muslim and one of our most senior architects, who prayed quietly in the designated multi-faith wellness room at prescribed times. She filed a complaint about the unverified and unsanctioned scheduling of communal spaces for non-work-related activities, suggesting a blind lottery system to ensure fairness. Ben in HR had to have a very firm, very awkward conversation with her about religious accommodation laws and the very definition of the word fairness. She listened, stone-faced, and afterward was heard muttering to her computer screen about special privileges creating a tiered system of access. The atmosphere in the office grew thick with a palpable tension. We started communicating via hushed whispers and encrypted chat apps, terrified that any innocent comment, any shared joke, or any casually eaten snack would be logged, reported, and used as evidence in her ever-expanding case against our collective inadequacy. Spontaneous laughter would die a sudden, painful death to second Emma's head would swivel slowly toward the source of sound, her eyes scanning for a breach of protocol. We were a team of highly skilled, well-paid professionals who had been reduced to tiptoeing around a 26-year-old tyrant of tediousness. The climax, the moment that shattered any remaining pretense of tolerance or attempts to understand her perspective, involved Arthur. Arthur was our male clerk. He was in his 50s, had Down syndrome, and was arguably the most popular and unifying person in the entire company. His joy was infectious, his work ethic impeccable, and he took immense, genuine pride in ensuring everyone received their packages and mail correctly. He knew everyone's name and always had a cheerful word. Every Friday, he would help Maria set out the catered lunch, proudly wearing a large, brightly colored apron that he called his chef coat. One Friday, the caterers brought a new dish, a kind of vibrant yellow curry. The incredible aroma filled the entire floor, and Arthur, who loved food and was our resident gourmand, was especially excited. He was buzzing around a lunch table like an eager bee as Maria laid out the steaming trays. On her apron that day was a large, beautifully embroidered sunflower. As Maria turned to grab more napkins from the counter behind her, Arthur, in a moment of pure, unadulterated excitement, pointed at the sunflower and exclaimed, "Pretty flower, it's so sunny," for the sunny day, and gently touched the embroidered petals with his fingertip. It was a gesture of innocent appreciation, lasting less than a second. We all saw it. We smiled. It was Arthur being Arthur, expressing joy in his unguarded way. Maria turned, saw it was him, and her face broke into a warm smile. "Isn't it just Arthur? It matches the yellow rice. Now go wash your hands. Lunch is almost ready." Emma, however, had frozen at her desk. Her face was a mask of grim, almost triumphant vindication. She had been waiting for a moment like this, an event that could be twisted into her narrative. She stood up not with haste, but with a chilling deliberateness, walked straight to her desk, and we all heard the rapid, forceful, percussive clicking of her keyboard. It was the sound of a guillotine being built in real time. 30 minutes later, Ben from HR emerged from his office. He looked ashen, his usual smile replaced by a grim line. He quietly called Arthur and Maria into the small conference room. The news rippled through the office not as a rumor, but as a shock wave. Emma had filed a formal, lengthy complaint of sexual harassment against Arthur. The document was reported to be 5 pages long, citing company policy sections we didn't know existed, and describing the incident as a targeted, unwelcome physical advance by a male colleague upon a female employee in a professional setting. She described the touch as lingering and invasive. She demanded immediate disciplinary action, including potential termination and mandatory sensitivity training for the entire staff, with a focus on intellectual disabilities and appropriate workplace conduct. The collective rage that erupted was instantaneous and absolute. It was a white-hot, pure thing. Maria stormed out of the conference room, not in tears of hurt, but in tears of sheer, incandescent fury. Arthur was confused and utterly heartbroken, understanding only that he was in trouble and that it made Maria sad, which devastated him. This was no longer about milk or thermostats. This was an attack on the most vulnerable and beloved among us. It was evil, cloaked in the language of policy. That was the breaking point. The silent, individual resentment coalesced into a single, unified purpose. Led by Sarah, our department head, who was furious that her team had been brought to this point, we drafted a collective letter. It wasn't an angry mob. It was a professional, sober, and devastating indictment. Every single employee on the floor, from the interns to the most senior partners, signed it. It detailed, in calm, clear language, the relentless campaign of frivolous complaints, the toxic, fearful atmosphere she had cultivated, and the profound damage her false and malicious accusation had inflicted on 2 cherished colleagues. We stated unequivocally that her presence made productive work impossible, and was an active detriment to the company's culture, morale, and ethical standing. We delivered it to Ben and the CEO, and we made it clear that this was non-negotiable. The following Monday, we arrived to find Emma already at her desk, her posture rigid. Ben and the CEO were waiting for her. They called her into main conference room, the glass walls offering a silent movie of what was clearly a very difficult conversation. The meeting lasted over an hour. We all pretended to work, our ears straining for any sound, our hearts pounding with a mix of anxiety and hope. Finally, the conference room door opened. Emma walked out first. She did not make eye contact with anyone, her face a cold, impassive mask of contempt. She went to her desk, gathered her personal belongings, the thermometer, the white noise machine, a framed picture of herself looking stern against a minimalist background, placed them neatly into a cardboard box, and walked out without a single word to anyone. A collective, massive sigh of relief washed over the entire floor. People actually hugged. Maria brought out her secret chocolate stash and passed it around. It was over. But Emma Petrova had one last grenade to launch. An hour after she left, an email arrived in the inbox of every single person in the company, from the interns to the CEO. The subject line was, "Formal notice of constructive dismissal and non-negotiable list of remedial requirements for continued employment." It was a 14-point list of demands she claimed were necessary for her to even consider withdrawing her formal grievance against the company for fostering a hostile work environment and facilitating discriminatory practices. They were breathtaking in their audacity, a masterpiece of delusional entitlement. A company-funded, unlimited subscription to a premium, farm-to-table meal delivery service of her choice for all employees, to eliminate the barbaric and unhygienic practice of shared catering, a monthly wellness and fuel stipend of $500, retroactive to her start date, to cover her commute via premium rideshare only, as public transport was beneath her professional standing and personal safety threshold, and organic, locally sourced groceries. The immediate installation of a medical-grade HEPA air filtration system on our floor, calibrated to her specific allergen sensitivity profile, which she would provide after consultation with her allergist, a dedicated sensory deprivation pod in the wellness room for her exclusive use for 2 hours per day to decompress from the overwhelming stimuli of the office, the permanent termination of the football, pool, and any other non-inclusive, gambling-adjacent activities, a formal, written apology from Arthur and Maria, vetted by her, to be read aloud by them in a mandatory all-hands meeting, the establishment of a new Office Ecology Committee, which she would chair, with veto power over all office purchases, layouts, and policies, a company-wide shift to a 4-day workweek to improve work-life balance, a cause she had never once mentioned while employed, and finally, point 14, the immediate removal of the office goldfish, Bubbles, from the reception area. His constant looping and pointless locomotion, she wrote, was a potent metaphor for the Sisyphean nature of corporate labor and was deeply triggering, causing existential anxiety and a loss of productivity. We read it in stunned silence. Then, from the corner, Tom, the quietest among us, let out a snort he couldn't suppress. Then Maria began to laugh, a real, hearty, tearful laugh we hadn't heard in weeks. Soon, the entire office was roaring. It wasn't a mean laugh. It was a laugh of survivors, a cathartic, incredulous release of 3 weeks of pent-up anxiety, frustration, and sheer absurdity. It was the sound of our workplace healing itself. Bubbles, oblivious to his role as a symbol of existential dread, continued his serene and provocative swimming in his little bowl. And we, finally, blessedly, could get back to work we loved. The silence now peaceful, the air, even at 22 degrees Celsius, feeling just right.